Hello, people of 431. First thing I wanted to do is I just wanted to adjust the laptop that I'm using here. I wanted to apologize for the last week's video. It was a very low energy video. It just didn't have much stuff in it. I was kind of, half the time I was talking, I was thinking maybe I should start this over. And then maybe I was tired and I was like, yeah, I'll just get my way through it. So I'm hoping, in addition to going over the kinds of things that we're going to do this week, I'm hoping to bring a little more energy to the kinds of things that we see going on in these videos. I'm just going to do some screen sharing. You'll see that there's Table Mountain behind me. Very cool. That's what's called Phantom Falls. There are like 8 falls on Table Mountain, and there is a falls hike you can design where you get to all of them. And it's maybe 7 miles long, so it's not for the faint of heart, but it really does take you to some spectacular places in Table Mountain, and maybe some of these falls that people just don't go to on a regular basis. I would imagine at least 75% of people who go to Table Mountain really just kind of stare at the flowers for a while, take some trails around, and go home. That's great, but it also puts you in these huge crowds. I think this is a pandemic thing that's happening, is that people just want to get out a little bit more. Interesting to be thinking about. Okay, so let's talk about where we are in 431. You know, I have dialed back the kinds of goals that we have for this class to sort of focus in with laser intensity on the kinds of things that you might do in order to become mentors and tutors at Chico State. That is, to imbue you with a sense of your own power and your responsibility and your agency in working with writers and writing. So what does that mean then? We've been quite a distance in this course, and it's been a long semester, I think, for all of us. But what we're doing is we're exploring what we know about writing. That is what scholars in composition and rhetoric know to be true, know to be various issues related to writing, both in English and in other languages, both in the Department of English and in other places where teaching writing happens. The W courses, over 200 of them at our university. So that's one of the things that we've really kind of concentrated on. We've read only about half of what we would normally read in a course like this, but again, laser intensity on the things that I just could not let go of. And we're working in Perusall really, really effectively. So where are we in terms of the class? I will share my screen. The screen sharing shall begin. What we've got now is writing about writing groups. Since we returned from spring break, what we have done is we have read several articles that complicate the notion of writing groups and the kinds of things that might happen in a writing group. Writing toward the end was an interesting one, and you might think about that in your own experiences. The group effect is also a cohort effect, and there may be ways in which a cohort suggests a paper is done, and a mentor has to say, but is it? And those are interesting kinds of conversations to have. The next week, theorizing forms of collaboration, put us with Muriel Harris, Mickey Harris, now retired, I believe. Collaboration is not collaboration is not collaboration. 3 different kinds of collaboration she's talking about. What kinds of collaboration are going on in your workshop groups? Are people writing together? Is it more of a tutorial but with a group? Is there something else going on? How would you characterize the forms or the qualities of the collaboration that's happening in your groups? And then finally this week, Mary Soliday's article, Shifting Roles in Classroom Tutoring, Cultivating the Art of Boundary Crossing. It is, and I've said this several times, it is the single concern that students seem always to be working with in a class like this. Uh, who am I? If I am not necessarily a teacher, I may want to be a teacher in the future, but I'm not one now. And these spaces are not places where one just teaches or lectures or gives out worksheets or leads a discussion in the same kinds of ways as might happen in a class. And yet I'm not a teacher, but I'm also not just a student anymore. I am more than a student. I'm a Vygotsky and more capable peer. But what does that mean in terms of my relationships with other students? What are the kinds of things that I can do or should do? How do I work with other students effectively so that they see me as a resource, but someone who's not going to just give them the answers? So that they see that I'm asking questions, not because I don't know, but because I want to spur conversation. So the issue of the role of the tutor, of the mentor, of the role of the mentor, right, is one that has remained a singular focus in this course for the 20 years or so that I've been working with this course. So what does that mean for us? In a number of ways, then, the assignment that you've now been given, that is to go observe someone else's writing group, is really an opportunity to see how things are done in other writing groups and to compare them to your own. What I have done, though, is I have made that the center of the assignment, but I've given you a focus. I've given you, my computer is so slow, Mark Hall's Valued Practices for Tutoring Writing, 20 different practices. He, working with his own tutors, he wrote about this in the book Around the Text of Writing Center Work, which came out in 2017. Low, like 4 years ago now. I'm just saying low a lot today. I gave you this because I want you to focus in, again, with laser intensity on one practice. What does that mean in terms of your papers? I want you to write a paper solely about, let's say, this number one. How did this workshop group establish rapport with the writer? What are the things that happened? Was the rapport effective? What did the rapport lead to or cause? How did it shape the conversation that happened around the essay? Okay, so you see that with each one of these value practices, it is not just sort of saying, yes, it occurred, no, it did not occur. It is asking the subsidiary questions, the follow-up questions that would come from engaging with that particular practice. Let's try another one, addressing the writer's concerns. How did the writer's concerns get addressed in that group? What did the mentor say? What did other students say? How was that helpful? Was it not helpful? What did it lead to? Downstream again, were those concerns addressed by the end of the hour? To what extent? And what can we say overall about the role the mentor played in creating an ecology or a space in which concerns would get addressed? Okay, so I'm hoping you're seeing the different kinds of ways that this paper will operate. You will go to a different writing workshop, and most of you have already done that. That's great. Thumbs up. But dos, you will focus in on one valued practice. Now, how do you decide? There's 20 here, right? After you observe, take a look at your notes. What was the thing? What was the issue? What was the challenge that that group faced during that hour? Maybe that's a way of linking what happened to one of these valued practices. And you'll notice that there's different kinds of ways that this operates. If you want to focus on the group, Working with the writing itself, this area right here from 5 to 10 could be the way that you go. If you want to talk about the specific activities of the mentor, then maybe some of the stuff down here, 11 to 16 would be the way that you go. In any case, what I'm hoping you can do is you can use the notes that you have built on this particular observation that you did. And you can compare to the kinds of things that happen in your own group in order to reach evaluative conclusions about how well that particular valued practice happened in your observation. As I say right here in the assignment sheet, I'm sorry for the slowness of this computer. I am going to get to it very quickly. Writing group observation paper. What I want you to do is end then by really kind of focusing in on that one move and making sure that you have a central idea or an argument about the session that you've witnessed in order to explicate the work of that consultation, that time, that writing group hour. So it's really important that you maybe, let's go back to the share screen really quickly. I'm sorry. Okay, here we go. It's really important that you dial in on that value practice, record detailed notes as you observe, but you know, you're not gonna evaluate every aspect of your peers mentoring, nor to judge their behavior. Your assignment is to describe what you see and hear, and then speculate about other possibilities, maybe some alternatives for tutoring or mentoring. The goal is not to judge necessarily what you observe, but to learn from thinking or writing and talking about it. So what does that mean? You're not saying by the end that this person was a terrible mentor or a good mentor. You are focusing in on how well that particular practice happened. And the nuance there, I think, is important, because what that means then is that you're saying, you know, despite the efforts of the workshop leader, perhaps things didn't go as it was planned. And I'll explain what I've learned from this and what I can keep in mind in the future. Or you're saying, this seems like an excellent way to focus in on this valued practice, right? The kinds of moves that have occurred during this hour really illustrate the importance of this valued practice. You know, all those kinds of things are really great to say. But again, you're not giving a thumbs up, thumbs down ranking on the mentor or necessarily. What you're doing is you're illustrating how well or how effectively that practice happened during your observation. Okay, so what does that mean then? It means that we are in the midst of week 10 stuff right here, and you will start to write about it, I'm hoping, later on this week, so that you have a draft ready to go by next Wednesday. So that's a week and a half. Again, it's kind of a draft like you wrote for that first paper, getting tutored, the being tutored paper. And it should reflect the same kind of style, the tone choices that you made with that one. I want to hear stories, but I want you to dial in, focus in on this particular activities that happened in that hour so that we can see and link them to that valued practice and maybe to other sources as they occur to you. So I'm really excited to read about these experiences that you've had and to hear how you're drawing out certain kinds of or illustrating certain kinds of practices and then reaching conclusions about them. I think things are going well. I'm really happy with this class. despite all of the pandemic issues that we've faced this semester, I think you all are doing really good work. And I really love to see you in Currents and Perusall talking about stuff related to teaching and learning to write. Okay, so contact me if you have any questions, and take care. Thanks.